So, the folks at Epic Games have just announced the final release of Quixel Mixer, which means that this is going to be the last version of Quixel Mixer that we'll be seeing until further notice. Quixel Mixer is currently Epic Games' free standalone material authoring and texture blending application developed by the folks at Quixel. And this tool is designed for creating and modifying physically based rendering materials, especially using Quixel Megascan asset library, with amazing functions like layer-based texturing, max-driven material authoring, and also editing. And the core purpose of Mixer is to allow artists to blend multiple scan-based materials, paint, texture, and mask materials directly onto 3D models, create custom PBR texture sets with different kinds of options, and offering artists the options of exporting their texture maps for game engines and DCC tools. And part of Quixel is Megascan, which is also an amazing set of photogrammetry-based surfaces that have been captured by the folks at Quixel to give artists a more true-to-life asset that they can use in both games and also in production. And currently, Megascan assets are now totally free since the launch of Fab, and Quixel itself has not had any major update after the updates that we got in 2022. And today, the folks at Epic Games are grinding a halt to Quixel Mixer. And for those who like to read up on this, you can simply go over to the link in the description where you can come through and see this within the news section. As it reads, it's the end of an era. We are releasing a final offline version of Quixel Mixer. After this release, there will be no further updates to the software. We want to give a big shout out to all those who have used Mixer over the years. We've loved seeing what you create with it, and we've appreciated all your support and feedback. And for those who like to download the final offline version of Quixel Mixer, you need to log in to your Quixel account. Now this can be done by simply logging in directly or using your Epic account details to log in. And the current version, which is available for you to work with right now, is the Quixel Mixer 2023.1.0. Now during the installation, you do have the option of downloading the free asset pack, which contains 800 assets that you can use with Mixer. At the same time, if you like to download older versions of Quixel Mixer, yes you can. So you can simply go over to this link and it's going to bring you right here where you'll be able to download for both Windows and Mac. So depending on the version that you like to download or the platform you like to download, you can come through and check them out here. So you do have from 2018, which I think is within that time that the folks at Epic Games actually acquired them. I believe the folks at Epic Games did acquire them late 2019, so you can find versions of that all the way to 2022.1, which was the last major update that we got. So you can come through and grab that too. Of course, it reads on to say that your previous acquired Megascan will still be available through Quixel.com and Bridge, and we will communicate ahead of any future changes. And this is kind of interesting. So we do know that during the time the folks at Epic Games purchased the whole Quixel company, which for those who have no idea, Quixel is a Swedish company which was founded sometime in 2011, and by default at the time, Quixel set of tools were more like plugins for Photoshop, and there were about 3 different tools that they did offer, and this includes the 3Do, the D-Do, and the N-Do. The 3Do was more like your real-time preview renderer, and this is where you get to do all of your lighting and you get to check how things look like. Then the D-Do was more like the material and texture authoring side of things, where you can paint your roughness, albedo, metalness, normals, and all of that stuff. It did rely heavily on Photoshop set of tools to get things going, and N-Do was more about the normal map creation, and that is basically the tool set that they had. I think at that time this was considered like a workflow primer or something like that, and we did see version 1, version 2. It's quite interesting to see how far we've come, being able to do your whole texturing, layer-based stuff inside of Photoshop, taking advantage of all of the brush sets and all of the layers stuff that has to do with Photoshop, and using that to make high quality 3D texturing instead of exporting your texture maps and painting over your texture map and bringing them back into your DCC app. The Quixel suite itself from version 1, version 2 and subsequent versions did make life a lot more easier for 3D creators, and at this time Substance hadn't gotten as much ground or even features as it has today. Over time, this now became one bundled mixer, which was no longer relying on Photoshop. Over time, they now expanded to creating bridges, which was more like you being able to export stuff and communicate with other DCC tools. And then we now had Megascan, which was more like an additional set of service that they announced later down the line, which had to do with photogrammetry assets that you can use for both games, film, animations. So when the folks at Epic bought them sometime in 2019, they did make Mixer and Bridge totally free for all users. However, Megascan asset itself was only free for Unreal Engine users. In typical Epic style, we did get a couple of updates. I think in 2020 we did get an update. We also got an update in 2021, and 2022 was when we saw the final update. And when the folks at Epic Games launched Fab, they now made this whole universal marketplace where everybody can put in stuff. And at the time was when they now made Megascan totally free for everyone. And it's kind of interesting to see the whole movement that Epic Games have done with Quixel, but I think this might just be that executive decision that they've made owing to the fact that this tool hasn't had as much update as anyone would really want it to have over time. The updates that we did get with all of the previous years had to do with them implementing 3D painting, smart materials, expanding the tool sets a little bit. Then we did see some UDIM support, multi-texture workflows was also one of those things that we did see. I think that should be about 2020, 2021-ish. And we also saw a couple of nice things come over to the library at the time. And that's it. We never really saw lots of updates compared to what you have with other tools. And in this case, I'm referring to tools like Substance itself. I'm talking about tools like Mari. We're also looking at new players in the texturing game, which has to do with Marmoset. These have actually had substantial updates compared to what we have with Quixel. Now, don't get me wrong, you can do your whole decal stuff, you can create your materials, you can actually do very nice procedural stuff with Quixel, which is also pretty interesting. In terms of, material blending, it offers all of that feature. Quixel also lets you just go from image to full-on material with a couple of tweaks instantly. The whole idea of you being able to go in there and texture in 3D and work with certain modifiers to create nice looking and appealing stuff is still fully useful. For those who are thinking about baking, maybe you're looking for a free tool that you can use to do your baking, this is also something that is currently available. You can go through and explore that as well. Then we've just got like a whole lot of things that Quixel can do. However, in terms of updates, Quixel hasn't gotten much update, and I think this tool didn't really get the appropriate publicity that it was supposed to have. It just looks like they focused more on Megascan and allowed Quixel Mixer to silently stay stuck in the background. So as it is right now, you can go ahead and download Quixel Mixer if you're looking for a free tool that you can use to do your texture. We've covered a couple of videos about how you can do your texturing with this, and it's kind of interesting to see where this whole thing is at this point. So for anyone who is thinking about checking this one out, I'm going to put a couple of links in the description and see this for yourself and explore it. It is a very simple and easy tool to use, and this is an end of era for this particular tool at this point. So this is it. The folks at Epic have now announced that the offline version of Quixel Mixer is now available, which brings the machine to a halt when it has to do with their free 3D texturing and authoring tool. So this is it. Tell me what you guys think about this one in the comment section. Links to where you can download the previous version and the current version is also going to be in the description, so do well to check it out. And until I see you guys in the next one, peace.